I think I've always had a growth mindset because in this day and age, I've had so many people like, where does that come from, Elisha?
Exactly. Very a contagious personality because every time, like, I want to play basketball with her. Like, I want to shoot my shot, for crying out loud. I want to get the 3-pointer over there.
So I quit my job and I had this vision. So I visited a bunch of people in Europe that I knew, and I came up with a contract to go play. And this was after coaching for like 7 to 8 years. I've learned in sports, you have a mindset. But when you're in sales, I feel like that's the next level of mindset. If you are not growing and working on mindset and your personal development, you will not survive. I was driving my car back from Texas. I found a shirt at the Walmart in my color, and it said, "Where God guides, He provides." I have my gifts too. Everybody has their own gifts, and that's why we should not compare, because everybody has different ones, and we're here to help each other.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a special episode of The Code to Winning. Insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. Today, we actually have a very, very special guest, probably the most fun person you'll ever come across on this set. I want to give a brief introduction of her before we introduce and give her the mic as well. So her name is Elisha Harris. Just a brief introduction of Elisha. She is a former professional athlete, college basketball coach, and a passion for health, fitness, and mindset. You might recognize her as the girl who ran the route. In the orange dress on ESPN, she played basketball professionally in Sweden and has represented the 35 and older US team in basketball internationally. Known for her great energy, ability to turn anything into fun, she brings high, authentic vibe into everything she does. She loves inspiring others to play big in life, whether through promoting shoot your shot and run your route. She'll always be balling for life, in case you see her always playing basketball too. Her mission is to empower and build others through coaching, alignment, public speaking, and helping them achieve their full potential in sports and life. Without further ado, the funnest person on the set, Elisha Harris.
Hey, yes. So excited to be here.
Awesome. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. You don't like ma'am, right? I had a lady.
You can call me whatever you want.
There was a lady I called ma'am by accident, and I think she just blocked me because I wanted to DM an asshole.
Yes.
But anyway, Elisha, yes, like I said, the first time I came across you was at that viral video, ESPN and SportsCenter as well. But before we go into that, I want to know a brief introduction of who is Elisha Harris.
Man, that is such a good question. Who am I? Let's just say I am a lover of people, and I am an athlete. I'm a couple different things. Everyone's like, man, you're always doing something new. A lot of that's because I'm a big believer in growth, and I've taken steps in life based on something I really want to attain, and I have to say, is this the route? Is this the route? And sometimes I fail, and so I'm doing so many things. But I wasn't always that way. Everyone's like, man, you can just connect with people, you can talk, you can do all these things. And I'm gonna be the first one to tell you, I was super shy in high school, and nobody believes me to this day. They're like, it was the shyness of I'd have to beg my sister to call the pizza guy to order pizza in high school. It was that bad. And so for me to be here this day, it's more of a story of like overcoming. Like if you're willing to get out of your comfort zone and shoot your shot in life consistently, it will help you grow and get to where you want to go. Because my upbringing, I had to just shatter some belief systems and conditioning that just wasn't there for me. I didn't have your typical being raised by two parents and, a dad with a lot of addictions, a mom that kind of checked out and all these things. I didn't play AAU basketball, and I was just always surviving for years. I didn't even know. Right? So the Elisha today that people see, I have to remind them, like, you can do this too. I promise you, because I've had to shatter those limits. So.
Awesome stuff. One of the things I like the most, our childhoods are very, very important because they pretty much define who we are and kind of give a trajectory in life of where we're going to be going as well, right? And so you were born and raised in Utah, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Yes,
okay,
West Jordan.
Were there any, would you say what are the roughest part of your upbringing, if you don't mind sharing?
I would say just being raised by a single mom that really, really struggled. And there's not a lot that I remember about my childhood. I think I just lived in my own little bubble. So that's why I definitely was the girl just playing basketball, living in my own little bubble. And I think that was hard though, because my dad could never show up. He was never around. He had too many addictions, too many things. And I love my parents, so it's hard to say these things. But I see those challenges that also refined me through my life. But those were probably the biggest things. I didn't have parents that could be there for me. And so I relied a lot on just coaches and other people that would step in at the time. And then I remember being piqued by a college coach at some point that just taught me about life through my sport. And that was huge for me. And I'm like, victim mindset. Wait, maybe I am doing that. He's like, people aren't going to care about what's happened to you if you go get a job and all these things he was teaching me. And I'm like, man, you're right. And so like the next year I had a complete 180, but that's another story. And I think I've always had a growth mindset because it's in this day and age, I've had so many people like, where does that come from, Elisha?
Exactly.
And I think it's probably always been there. I always remember having dreams of like, I just want to help people, but I knew that deep down I had to help myself. So by seeing other people step up and pique my interest in growth, that just started spiraling at just a high rate for me. And that's why after even basketball and after coaching, I got into door to door and did all these things that I'm like, this is going to help my fear of speaking. This is going to help this. And so little by little by little, it's like, now I'm here where I'm like, oh my gosh, I love stepping out and trying to speak to people. And that's just huge. Even my sister's like, imagine this. You were like public speaking and you were the most shy person out there.
Wow. That's I love that story. And I think what also makes it super fun is the fact that it's very authentic. You know what I'm saying? And you just have a contagious personality, because every time like I want to play basketball with her. Like I want to shoot my shot, for crying out loud. I want to get the 3-pointer over there. You know what I'm saying? So I want to know so many people probably may not know this, but you were also like playing college basketball, right? And then you went and became a coach. So I want to know the journey between playing college basketball, transitioning into coaching, and then further becoming an influencer as well. Can you kind of like run through that specific? I know it's like a lot.
Yeah. Well, let's just say, first of all, I started off junior college. I think I didn't have the mindset to completely go higher, even though I was a good enough player physically. It's called now Utah State University Eastern. Back then it was CEU. It's in Price, Utah. And that was where I needed to be at that time. And so, but I remember telling that coach, because I was such a homebody and shy, I was like, I don't want to play out of state. I just want to stay home in Utah in this bubble that I realized was a bubble. And so it comes into the season and he's like, yeah, you have here's your Utah options, but you have a ton of outside options. I'm like, well, why didn't you tell me? He's like, you said you didn't want to leave the state. Anyway, I remember him saying, Alaska Anchorage is interested in you. And for some reason that just like piqued. I was like, wow, that sounds super adventurous for whatever reason. And then I found out it was a coach that was really good. And, so I went there and he taught so much about life through basketball, and he was such an out-of-the-box thinker and kind of introduced that world to me. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, like I love that he's doing that. So that inspired me to want to get into coaching specifically, because I'm a person that loves people and personal development and all the things. And anyway, so I was still pretty shy, but I stretched a little bit by taking that leap, and I helped out coaching. And then I started realizing I was good at recruiting. That was a skill that I had. So that's one little thing. And I remember one of my first phone calls was Haley Homestead, and she was an All-American at Salt Lake Community College. And I remember like kind of answering it, and it didn't go anywhere, and it felt so awkward. And then she like hung up, and I'm like, what just happened? And it felt so awkward. But I remember calling her back, and we bonded. And I just remember like, shoot, if I can recruit one of the best players out of here, like I have something there. And so I started realizing, I got a little bit of confidence just shooting that way, even though it was uncomfortable and ugly at first. It showed one of my skill sets. And I was still a pretty quiet coach in front of like whole group, so that's needed to keep developing. So as I took different jobs, I got a little bit better, but I found my niche. I really loved seeing the individual grow. And I think that's why when I eventually got out of, well, let's take a step back. So after like 7 years of coaching college, some big breakup happened in my life. And I decided I wanted to quit my job and just go play overseas. I had no idea how. And I'm just like, I'm going to do it. So I quit my job, and I had this vision. So I visited a bunch of people in Europe that I knew, and I came up with a contract to go play. And this was after coaching for like 7 to 8 years. And so I had my experience playing overseas, and I got back to having more time to really meditate, have me time to get clear on like, what do I want? And then after that, it kind of got me into the door-to-door space. So I was like, you need to go check this out. So I get into the door-to-door space, and I realized that that was just my next level for stretching myself and communicating and really leveling up. Because I've learned in sports, you have a mindset. But when you're in sales, I feel like that's the next level of mindset. If you are not growing and working on mindset and your personal development, you will not survive. And so I'm like, oh, this is the world I need to be in, because that is just way next level.
I love that.
And so even before I get to the influencer part, I'm just such a big believer of no matter who you are, if you will just spend one summer doing door to door, especially while you're younger, I wish I did, it will shatter so much for you, and you will learn so much about yourself and how to connect to people. So no matter what career you have, it's going to help that.
I really, really like that. And what made you choose Sweden, if you don't mind me asking? Did you like kind of do a whole tour around Europe? Did you go like England and Finland, or did you just like choose specifically Sweden? Why did you choose that?
Good question. I mostly looked at France and Sweden. And I remember like, I can like the city and appreciate it. It was cool. I've been to Paris a few times, but it just didn't hit my soul like Sweden did. I remember just landing in the trees and the nature and the vibe and whatever it was, something was calling me like, I remember just landing like, I want to play here. And I guess God was like, yep, you're going to be able to. So I met the right people, talked to the right coaches, and I was able to get a contract and live that dream. And the vision was to play international basketball. And I've learned to detach from, you have to get really clear on your vision, because my vision was to do that, and I did that. However, when I arrived, I did get injured. I was like, what the heck? I get here, get injured, end up playing for 2 different teams. And so the second team that picked me up middle of the year because I was injured, they allowed me to coach. So I actually got to coach and play, and it was a cool mixture while I was healing and recovering. But I got to do what I want to do. I got to see another country. I got to learn and grow. I got to like experience this whole country and their culture, and I loved it so much because I love people. And that was just huge for me. I was like, that's what I wanted. Thank you. I didn't play my best, but...
How long were you there for, too?
Just a year.
Okay.
Yeah, because I'm like, you know what?
That's a good time.
Yeah. I thought, you know what? I could stay another year, but I was being called back, actually. I'd have a friend that was on a mission in Alaska, and he was a missionary, and he watched our games, and he's like, you should come do door to door. So that was the first time. I literally moved from Sweden to Vegas.
Couldn't be more opposite ends of the spectrum.
Yeah, I was like, all right.
Oh, I love Vegas. Oh gosh, Vegas.
Yeah.
But now speaking about that, I want to kind of like touch a bit more again on like women's sports, because I've seen a massive transition in like viewership in terms of women's sport. We've seen the effects of like the Caitlin Clark. I want to make a personal example for me. I've watched March Madness for the past 7-8 years, but for the first time ever, I just focused on women's college basketball. Oh yeah, no, 100%. Because we had brackets that we were all like competing on. I'll be honest, I chose LSU, but it was like a last minute thing when we were doing like our brackets. But women's basketball is just completely just taken off, and I feel like right now people were more. I think I even watched Shaquille O'Neal on one of his episodes on the podcast. He was talking about how women's basketball, specifically college, was way more interesting to watch rather than men's. So my question with that, where do you see the trajectory of like the WNBA and the NCAA for like women as well?
The trajectory, I just think that it's just going to keep rising and rising. I mean, I love what Caitlin Clark is doing. So I get mad at the haters. I'm like, even if you don't think she's this person or that person, like she leveled up the game. She's bringing people here.
100%.
And I get mad at the haters, but there's always going to be haters. If you're doing something right in life, if you're going to be a Jordan type person, you're going to have haters. So it comes with the territory.
She's revolutionized the game.
Yeah.
Both for college and just like just entering the WNBA, like just even like ticket prices and like attendance, everything is just like, transitioning, so it's been exciting to watch what she's been doing for the game of women. So sorry, continue.
No, yeah, I just think it's going to keep growing and growing and growing, and it also helps the more I work with athletes and the more I speak to athletes, it just keeps growing that sport for women and their belief in what they can do, and I love it. So
100%.
Yeah.
You touched on something before we go on social media presence on coaching. Every time I keep interviewing a variety of entrepreneurs or guests, they keep stressing on the importance of mentorship and coaching as well. Have you had, I know you didn't specify, but have you had examples of maybe an athlete that you've coached that you've seen just completely change your life or from the experience you've had with them?
You mean my mentors for me?
Mentee or mentor.
Okay, I guess I can share with both. So when I did get into more door-to-door, I did hire my first mentor. His name's Jeff Buhner. He's the author of The Sultan Seven Secrets. And what I love about that is it's a true story, that book that he wrote, but he was given a manuscript about it. But it's the story of Aladdin. And I guess in Aladdin, they took out the God concept, but it's like Musa of Mali back in the 1300s. And so it talks about all these principles that he was taught by the man of light. And the more I kind of listened to my mentor and tapped into that, I was like, oh my gosh, creation is fun. This stuff's real. If you have a vision and you stick to that daily, it's like your universe will literally shift in your favor. And the more I've tapped into that, I really feel, and I can be naive about this, but I feel like that was somehow tied to also my viral video. Because I knew I wanted to help people on a big level and I wanted to inspire and impact through words or whatever I'm doing. And the more I stepped into that, it's like, cool, well, if that's what shifted to make this kind of take off, like it's kind of crazy how it took off and how big it took off. And I was like, wow, okay, like this stuff's real. Okay, I love it. And so mentors are huge for me. And then especially after that, so that was 2022, end of 2022. In 2022, I had an incredible year, the most money I ever made in a couple months. I was working at Delta and I was traveling the world, had flight benefits, and I went on ESPN, right? And I remember at the end of the year, though, I'm like, I really want to grow more and quantum leap, God. And so I went through some interesting times last spring that kind of brought me to a lower place where I was driving my car back from Texas. I found a shirt at the Walmart in my color, and it said, where God guides, he provides. And I kept driving and went to this thing where I knew I was supposed to hire this mentor, this last one, and I paid a crap ton of money for her. But her emphasis is ambitious, God-centered women, and I'm going to tell you, I'm so grateful I did that because now I can lead even more authentically as a woman because men and women are different. And I know that society's trying to really masculize women and the power of what we can do. And so the more I've done that and some more healing and deep diving, because I've learned if you want a quantum leap, you got to go down first. And it's like a slingshot. And, like, and so yes, I agree that mentors and coaches are huge. And for me, I think I hired her even more so to trust my own intuition because there's years of no guidance and no parents, right? So I'd always ask everybody for their opinion and learning that, wow, why did I ever second guess myself? When you're tapped in and you can still get some guidance and ask questions, but the answers will come to you if you get quiet enough and slow down enough. But we're in a world where it's like, do, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. We still have to enjoy the route and we still have to get slow enough to listen.
I love that. 100%. I couldn't agree more. Now, my next question, you're very big on social media.
Yeah.
And not just that, not just the viral videos, but if somebody just follows you on a day-to-day basis, they can see the very authentic, playing basketball, going to church, going dinner with your friends. It's just very real and authentic as well. What made you pursue a social media presence, and how has that evolved over time?
Yeah, so before the viral video, obviously didn't have as many followers, but I've always had a desire to just share my adventurous life and fun because I really see a lot of people just sleepwalking in life. They're on autopilot. They're not really living in purpose. Not everybody, but I can just like see that a little bit. And I've always wanted to be like, and I ask questions like, well, why didn't you go do this? Well, it wasn't safe and this paid more and da-da-da-da-da. And I'm like, but that's sad because I feel like God really gave each of us something deep in our hearts that he wants to help us co-create. And sometimes, but we have that fear, so we take what's safe, but we learned during COVID nothing is safe, right? Anyway, I've always loved sharing my adventures, my travel. I've always just wanted to inspire other people to enjoy life. My middle name's probably fun, like, I don't know, in another world. But so when my video went viral, I think since then I've just tried to I have a lot of male followers, but I've tried to mold that and get more females and youth because I really want to keep teaching authenticity and shooting your shot and just going to the next level of growth because I believe that's why we're here, to keep growing. and if they don't want to, that's totally fine. And I don't judge people for where they're at. I see people and I love people. And if I can inspire somebody to take a different action and want more out of life, that's exciting for me. And then for the people that already have that desire, but they don't know what the next level is. And I love being able to share that. So I recently had a girl this last 5 months that I've been mentoring. I used to coach her like 10 years ago. That was the last job I quit before I played in Sweden. And she's come into our lives a few years ago, right after my dad passed away. And it's like she filled this little hole. But since then, over the years, I remember she came here and she got her accounting degree. And she's like, it didn't light her up, though. And I could tell it didn't light her up. And my brother-in-law's a doctor. And I remember she would just light up with that stuff. And she's so smart. And I'm like, why are you doing this? She's like, you're right. And so I'm like, I'm going to go do a summer of door-to-door in 2 weeks. So if you want to join me and you feel good about it, come out and then go pursue that. And she totally did. And it's been a different game changer for her. But in the meantime, this was the last few years. So she's been going to school to become a doctor. She just took the MCAT like last week. Anyway, and she's from Italy and she's so brilliant. I love her. But like in December, I saved her from a relationship. I just saw the last few years she was in a relationship and her vibration was just so low. And I'm like, you see this in some people. It's like, you just got to learn a lesson sometimes in relationships. But it's like, I was waiting for her to step into her power and realize she didn't need that relationship. And her vibe was here. And the more I've worked with her on herself growing from the inside out, she's seen that she doesn't need that. And she got through all the heartbreak. She's done a lot of deep diving. And now she looks at me. She's like, what was I doing before? Holy cow, this is like a different level. And she's at peace. And she's so centered and aligned with herself and stepping into her power and trusting her own source and not somebody else's. And it's just so beautiful to see me teach somebody else doing that. I'm like, gosh, I love this.
Oh, wow. I love it.
It's like a ripple effect.
Love it so much. On the topic of social media, we've seen how it has had over time a lot of negative effect, especially on the younger youth with the problem of perfectionism, a lot of suicide and so forth as well. Personally, for me, I want to share an experience. I mean, these two know it way better than I do that. Whenever I release content out, I am extremely so demanding at making sure it's the perfect reel, that it resonates with the audience. And sometimes I end up losing the authentic vibe of it because I want it to become so perfect. Sometimes Zach's like, dude, it's all right. My wife's like, it's fine. I'm like, babe, it has to be that thing. The reason I want to go to this, I feel like sometimes we're losing, personally for myself, the value of authenticity, being very authentic. It's okay to be raw. It's okay to be real. Yeah. And so how important can you stress on just making sure people become their true self, especially in the public eye, through social media?
There's a couple different directions I can go here. Because one, I feel like with showing up super authentic, I really, this came to me the other day, I feel like there's a surface level authenticity, and then there's a soul level authenticity. And some people think they're showing up a certain way, but they still got all their walls in the way. And sometimes we don't know what those walls are because they're there to protect us. I've learned a lot about that this last year. I'm like, oh, so I shattered a few of those. Anyway, I've been there. I've done what you've done a little bit before. And so I've learned, though, if something's super heavy, because I'm trying to just make this work, that's when I step away. I'm like, okay, how can I kiss and keep it silly simple so that I can just show up authentic and not put too much time into this and just show who I am. And I'm trying to do that more and more and more. Right now I show my makes and this and that, but I have fun doing it. Maybe I need to show my misses too. I probably should at some point, but I want to talk about those things so people can get rid of the comparison, because we all do it at some point. And that's why it's okay, no, I have my gifts too. Everybody has their own gifts. And that's why we should not compare, because everybody has different ones and we're here to help each other. But it is hard to do what you're saying. That's why, again, I just really, if something is heavy, I go back to keeping it simple, keeping it light, and making sure it aligns with me and I'm not trying to portray something that I'm not. And so I go back to is this aligning? And you'll know for yourself. If you're in tune with yourself, you're like, yeah, that's not me. Okay, let me just cut it straight. Or I'm trying not to do filters. I see a lot of people doing filters. I'm like, man, they look so good. And then I'm like, but I don't want to, I really want to show. So I've been doing a lot more stories to just practice just in the morning. I just put a ponytail in. I'm right before the gym and my freckles, all the things are showing. And some people are just like, thank you for showing up that way. And thank you for talking about this or da 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 da. And truly, because you have to remember what's the vision. I want to help people show up as them. I want to help people get to the next level. So I have to be doing what I'm preaching.
100% powerful. I couldn't have said it any better. The next question now, still on this topic of social media. I promise we'll move on.
Yay,
I promise.
I'm up for wherever this needs to go. I love it.
The next question is personal branding. We've seen the importance of that in the past few years. Like personal branding can literally like determine like your businesses, can determine like any field that you're specifically in. Where do you see personal branding going and how important is it currently right now?
I'll answer the second question first. I think it is actually really, really important. If you want to go somewhere and you have a vision, I think you just need to get really, really clear on that vision, and that will dial in your branding. Because sometimes I think we need to get the branding first, but I don't think people actually know what they want. So
Exactly.
it's like it takes time to get there. Because I've had to do that a little bit in the past, but once I've tuned in, it's like I just keep getting these little steps. Like, okay, the vision is I really want to impact here and do this. And then all the steps will lay after I get clear on what I want. And so I see people that need to know that because it's so vague and everyone's like this and this and this and everybody doesn't want to miss out. And so they want to do all the things. And I get that because I have so many passions. And so I've seen that in myself and I can help guide more because I've gotten a lot more clear on this is the direction I want to go. So branding is huge because especially if you're using a platform like Instagram because they're so niched down. It's like you better know what you want. Your algorithm's not going to be any good. I mean, you can do more like on TikTok and other platforms, but Instagram's like you can grow on Instagram and find and build a business. I've learned if you do have that dialed
And did you do a course for Instagram or anything, or you just like built your brand from then and it just took off and you just like worked on that?
I think I'm grateful I worked with somebody in Door to Door who was my flight companion at the time too. And he ran a social media marketing company and we would travel together and I would pick his brain and see what he was doing. So I picked up a lot of stuff that way.
Okay.
And I was around a few other people and I'm like, oh, I learned that you can make social media super simple. And sometimes we try to make it super complicated. And I'm like, so I do that too. It's like the ones that I've spent a ton of time on, half the time they don't even do that well. I'm like, what the freak? And then one I took a few seconds and barely did anything with. I'm like, hey, let's go.
Speaking about that was my example. So there was a time I was, you know what, I'm not going to keep, because I care a lot about, because I collaborate with all the guests that I'm with. I'm like, I care if they think that they're not looking good. So at the point, I don't care what I ask as long as like they just give what they feel like is good.
Yeah.
And sometimes like I realize when I overthink how they look, they hardly even care, number one. And then number two, we had an experience of that. Like we realized some of those are the ones that actually get more reach because it's like there's a few stutters here and there, but like he's picking his brain, stupor of thought. And those are the ones that actually, like when you care less, sometimes you get more results. But when you overthink it, you overcomplicate it, which often dampers like results as well, from my experience.
And you maybe show up differently or show up in that wall of protection, right?
Perhaps.
Instead of being like, wow, if I show up as human, I'm actually going to relate to them more. And I show my cracks, and that actually connects people. I'm like, okay.
100%.
It's like my friend's like, are you going to redo your nails today because you're on this podcast? I'm like, no, whatever. Like, I have chipped nails. I play basketball, and I have a jammed finger right here because I play basketball. Who cares? But as a woman, like, I still want to look good, right? And I can, but I don't look like this all the time. Come on. Like, yeah, I want to dress up for podcasts, but oftentimes I'm in a sweaty mess in the gym. And so, but I like to show both, to show that that's real.
I love that. I love that so much. Can you tell us a bit more about your personal branding in Ballin for Life and shooting your shot, right?
Yeah, shoot your shot.
I'm going to rephrase it again. Can you tell us a bit more about your branding, Ballin for Life and shoot your shot?
Yes. So, Ballin for Life came to me a few years ago. It's what my LLC is called. And to me, that means be all in for life. To me, that means success. I don't know if you've ever typed in your little messages and put in Ballin, what emoji pops up. It's the one with the sunglasses and the money tongue coming out. So it's like success to me. It's like I want to be successful on and off the court, in and out of sports. And so my terminology for that is like shoot your shot. I feel like a lot of people want to shoot other people's shot, but it's like, shoot your shot and shoot it even if you're uncomfortable doing it. Shoot it even if it doesn't look perfect. Shoot it even if you might miss, because we learn from the misses, right? And because if we never do it, then we never grow. And I feel like failure and success happen sometimes at the same time. I was knocking doors like last night in West Jordan, and it came to me, I was like, this is so interesting, because the hardest part is literally just getting out of the car. And I'm just having success by stepping out of the car and knocking a door, because to this day, it still makes you uncomfortable.
100%.
It's always uncomfortable. That's why people are like, I need to get off the doors. And sometimes I like it just because it reminds me that I'm human and it gets me out of my comfort zone.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm going to go up the door, and whether I make an appointment with them or not, I had success. And some people will say that was failure because I didn't make an appointment. But I'm like, but they go together. Like I had both things going on there, right? Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm just such a huge promoter of shoot your shot. But I'm also, I think the more I'm going to mentor, coach athletes or whoever in the future, I've learned through my life that things get in the way from shooting your shot. And I think because today I can shoot my shot like a way higher vibration, but as a younger person, I didn't understand how much, whether it was trauma or whatever, prevented me from fully shooting my shot. Mm-hmm. I don't think I was the best athlete I ever could be, but at the time I was. But now it's like, man, if I could get rid of that junk that holds us back, those belief systems that we now have so many resources to, that's the stuff I want to help people with. Because like, keep shooting, but now let's see what gets in the way of you fully showing up as yourself and shooting your shot.
Wow.
And then on top of that, so I have another one called like Run Your Route. That obviously came because I ran a route, but it's the same principle of like, whatever your vision is, like some people, because of comparison, they don't go do it because it doesn't look like that. Mm-hmm. But your route isn't supposed to look like anybody else's route. It's supposed to look like your route. And sometimes we try to control the route, right? And so, like, if we knew what the route was, if God's like, hey, this is what it's going to look like, we would never start.
Exactly.
We've learned that.
100%.
And, but it's just all about people being authentic with who they are and not being afraid to show who they are. But if things are in the way from you being able to do it your way, then that's something to look at, and that's where you need to go so that you can fully shoot your shot.
Powerful. Absolutely powerful. My question again, have you had any sports athletes that you personally look up to that you followed for a while? Like either in basketball or in track or football?
What is coming to mind? Obviously, only recently. I'm like, growing up, obviously Caitlin Clark.
I was like, come on. That's a standard answer.
Nobody's coming to mind besides Caitlin. I just love what she's doing, and she just like, she's so chill, and she's like from the middle of the country, and she just, you can tell all she's done is just put in the belief system and the work ethic, and she's just gone after it, and not cared what the image looks like. Like, you see some people, they have like all the things or all the swag, and they try to look the part, and then their mindset's not even there. And sometimes they can play. She don't care. She just got the pony.
You know what I'm saying? She's very simple. You know,
she's simple, and I love that. And I hope she keeps that, because sometimes fame and money will
get to you.
It gives you more opportunity to show your true cards or to sway out of your true cards. So it'll be interesting to see what direction she goes. But I hope she stays to that pure nature of who she is.
Awesome. I like that a lot. I had a quick question before we actually moved on. You got to rank these three for me.
Uh-oh, shoot.
You play basketball, so I'm trying to test your ball knowledge, if that's okay with you.
It might be, but I got to be guilty that I haven't watched a ton.
We have to get over it and just like be authentic and honest. Are you ready?
Maybe.
I'm going to give you three names. You're going to mention from 3, 2, and 1. 1 being the GOAT.
Here we go.
Kobe Bryant.
Okay.
LeBron James.
Okay.
Michael Jordan. So you're going to give me 3,
People are
2,
gonna hate me
and then you're going to give me number 1, and you're going to tell me why number 1's the GOAT. So the stage is yours.
Do I have to answer this?
You have to answer.
Here we go. So growing up, I was always a Michael Jordan fan. And so it's hard to, because of my condition, who I am, to pick somebody different from Michael Jordan being number 1.
We got to cut this podcast. We're done.
See?
I can't do this.
But however, this last year I studied a lot more about Kobe, And there's something about Kobe to me, and I don't care if yours is James or whoever, but I love how Kobe just had a different essence about him, just not even as a basketball player. I just have to hit on this because I love his energy is just different, and his smile, and he shows up so authentic that I don't always see a lot of other basketball players showing up in that energy. And of course, he was a women's basketball fan. So I've grown to love him a lot more than the Michael Jordan view this last year. And I mean, I don't have anything against LeBron. He's amazing. He's massive, and he's got, a little advantage there, I feel like. But I was like, shoot. Anyway, I'm not going to go there. But
I was going to add Steph there, but I felt like that was going to be so biased because it looks like you're just like a shooter. So you're going to go for Steph. So I was like, you know what? Let's make it a little harder. Let's add my guy, LBJ.
I could tell he was your guy. I was like, I'm going to go here, but I can tell. And again, they're all amazing. I came from a time of Jordan, but Kobe too. But I didn't really study Kobe as much until more recently. And I love what he's about and what he preaches. And I'm just like, holy crap. Me growing up, I just got to say, I lived in my own little world. I really didn't watch a ton of sports. Okay. And for me, to this day, I love watching athletes that I'm working with or helping. That's where I thrive. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm coming to your game. I'm supporting you. Then I zone in. And that's obviously you got to like go where what lights you up. So guilty as charged when I've coached, college basketball. I should be the one that loves all the X's and O's. And like, I'm just different that way. I'm like, I love showing up for my people.
Oh, no, that's perfect. That was almost a do or die with me and Tyler. Before I met him, he had his profile pictures, Kobe. I'm like, I don't know if I should work with him. I don't know if it's worth the business relationship. He's got Kobe there. There's no and is he following LeBron? Not even following LeBron. That's a deal breaker.
I still love LeBron. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I have some fights in here.
I interviewed you probably know him, David Meltzer.
That sounds really familiar.
So he used to run the biggest sports agency from New York. So he was in Salt Lake a while back, and I asked him the same question, and he did not even hesitate. He was so Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, and he left LeBron there. So I was like, you know what?
I guess I kind of just did that,
your
didn't I?
podcast will go number 100 in terms of broadcast.
I just ruined it at the end. That's amazing.
Nah, I love it. The thing is, these athletes are so talented. They're so good as well. But it also goes back to that principle of the 10,000 hours. And I feel like if everyone can just specifically invest in a skill set that they really have passion towards. I mean, Kobe Bryant, as much as I love LeBron James, the authenticness of Kobe, the raw, the grit,
That's what I love.
Never give up. Like, I'm going to win even if I have to take it by myself, So that mentality is so important considering where we're at today, you know what I'm saying? So that's one thing I can't take away from any of these athletes. As much as I'm more LBJ, much respect. Respect is given, respect is due.
Respect all of them, obviously.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
All right, so I want to know.
I love it.
I want to know, mental health is a significant aspect of like athletic performance. My question now is, how do you prioritize your mental well-being, like for yourself? How do you prioritize that on a day-to-day basis?
Day-to-day. Well, first of all, going back to, I just spent like this whole last year slowing down to really get junk out of the way and learn that alignment for mental health. Because I have a father that has a lot of addictions and he took his life in 2019. So I am firsthand understand if you're not in alignment, you're going to go that certain direction. And I didn't want to end up like my dad or my mother. And so for me, I'm glad I took the time and resources this last year to do that. So on a daily basis for me, it's really making sure I slow down, especially in the mornings, and connect. Or if my day gets too crazy out of hand and too boom, 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 it's like, this is all, I'm just a firm believer of you need to be tied to your vision, but you also need to be able to be present while being tied to your vision. Because I see a lot of people just chasing that only, like, oh, I'm going to be so happy once I get there. It's like, but then you miss the whole mark. And that's what some of my social media is about too. It's like, no, you need to go have fun because like we're living right here in this moment. We're not guaranteed tomorrow. Yesterday's already gone, but I can still be progressing towards that. And I think amazing book to illustrate that in more depth is Be Your Future Self Now. I don't know if you read it. Anyway, so meditation, still time in the morning, reading really good books that are high vibe mentality stuff, and sometimes I journal if I feel inspired to. And I try not to do it with a checklist. I've learned if you're just doing things, a checklist, just like in my own religion, when I see people checklist, it doesn't do much for you. You have to really be present and know why you're doing it and feel into it.
If you're not checklisting it, then how would you find a way for people to hold themselves accountable and becoming consistent in those building those habits?
I mean, I'm just saying more of the energy of a checklist of that's all it is. Like,
Okay.
I'm doing it only so I can get that dopamine of like checking.
I get what you're saying.
Versus, okay, yes, this is what I'm engraved in to do, but I'm so excited to do it because like when I connect, I can like connect to my higher being or whatever I'm doing. And now it becomes a habit because if I don't do that, I feel off. And so it's hard to explain that, but as long as you're doing it from an energy of like intention, like I'm really here, I'm really present, it's so much different.
Okay, I love that a lot. And the reason I also agree with what she's saying, considering we're from the same like sect and religion, we've seen how it's evolved over time where something very specific like home teaching, which became now like more ministering, instead of becoming like a robotic way to just go and get that thing ticked off for the last day of the month. It was more like, hey, listen, just go check up on this person, build those healthy habits, draw closer to your Heavenly Father, connect on a personal basis, rather than just checking that off your list as well. Yes. And I think it's very, very important because I love what you mentioned, and I've seen it a lot. Sometimes we just have the thing, I need to go to church on Sunday. Okay, but why? Yes. Do you want to go draw closer to Heavenly Father? Yes. Do you want to build relationships with like your fellow members of the church, or find meaningful like ways for you to build those specific habits that you can not only grow personally for yourself but spiritually at the same time too. So I think it's very, very important that you just mentioned that.
Yes, that's huge. Just one little note on that, because for me, even though I was raised in the LDS church, I never felt that, and I was just hanging on to basketball, listening to other people's views. But for me, connection to God is more important than anything. In this last year, I've been able to really tune into that and trust my intuition, and that actually led me to wanting to be active. And then it's like I do notice people that just kind of, they're still not connected, but they're doing the things, and they wonder why they're not happy. And I'm like, well, you need to tap into the connection. Mm-hmm. And the energy's different, just like you said. It's about the intention and the energy, and then you show up completely different.
100%. So I want to ask this question now. You mentioned that part of your routine is reading a book in the morning. What books would you recommend, and what are those that have inspired you? Like, because for instance, I want to share the two for me, then I want to hear yours as well. So for instance, when I first grew up, my dad gave me a Rich Dad Poor Dad at a young age. Just read this thing, and I was like, whoa, okay. This guy's actually speaking directly to me. The reason why I came to America with the main purpose of just going straight to Goldman Sachs in New York City. So I came here, did an internship in New York, got the full-time offer. My roommates are like, hey, let's go do solar. Bro, I got my dream. I'm in Manhattan. I just got, did you not see my picture with Michael Bloomberg? Solar? And so we took that risk, and it was the most rewarding thing ever. So I'll get back to that when we talk about door-to-door. But so number one is Rich Dad, Poor Dad. Number two, Think and Grow Rich, which she introduced to me as well. And then number three was The Secret. So those are like my blueprint for life, if in a way. So I want to hear yours because I'm curious.
Blueprint for life. I love it. There's so many good books.
I know.
Okay, so, well, I obviously make sure I have a little bit of time in scripture, but the other books that I read, I would say.
Did you have to one-up me there with your scripture? Is that what you were trying to do?
But I'll basically, add the Bible, right? Since he took me down Testament. Because of my LeBron James, whatever, I'm like, you know what? Are we gonna have a battle here?
Well, I lost
Let's
that
go.
one. Right?
He shot his shot. We're going to the courts after this. So, but no, I think I mentioned one of the books earlier today. So, The Sultan Seven Secrets. Why I love that so much, again, is because it's based on a true story. The stuff's legit, and it's about creation and really having a vision and how this universe works. And look at Musaf Mali. He was Aladdin, but obviously a different story. It wasn't just like the big pyramid or whatever. He was in this cave and had an out-of-body experience, almost died, met the Man of Light. And then once he gets out of that, you can read the whole book, right? Once he gets out of that, he becomes a sultan. Like, who does that back in that day in that country? That doesn't happen. And the more I've tapped into that type of creation, like, it's real. But the simplicity of it and the non-logic of it will get people a little sidetracked of like, nah, that's not it. But if you can really tap into that, it's so powerful. Then I will share another book that I've been listening to, The Power of One More. I've started to become a big fan of Ed Milet. And
I haven't read that yet. So
I love that he can mention God and talk, but he has some really powerful stuff in there. Even when lately, because I play so much basketball, people are like, let's play one-on-one. I've been trying to shoot 50 to 100 shots and make them on my own every morning. And so now I'm like, oh, I got to make 101. Or I just add a little like extra just because I always hear Ed Milet now in my mind. It's like, okay, I'll do another one. Why not? Why not? Just shoot your shot again. So that's a huge, huge book that I've loved lately. But I usually keep extra copies of The Sultan Seven Secrets. I love that so much because it's not even that big. It's an easy read, and it has so much power in it. And I know the author, and he's amazing. And so I have 2 books now, if I want to cut out the scriptures. Which the old me would be like, would you even ever mention the scriptures? Isn't that crazy? New vibe. Those are the ones that are just coming straight up to me. My mentor, however, this last year, I loved reading her book because it kind of merged. As I said, she mentors ambitious, God-centered women, and I love how she can talk about God stuff, but also universal laws. Because I feel like sometimes you'll see people, and it's okay, you'll see people just go off universal laws, and that's great. It's powerful. I feel like God created universal laws because he's not going to play favorite with his children. So if you tap into those, they work. But I feel like it's just next level if you can tap into God and use the universal laws. Like, how powerful is that? So she kind of merges a lot of that, and it's kind of fun to read. Those are the things I'm kind of into with like energy, and so it's interesting to see them come together because some people just think it's too woo-woo, but I'm like, everything's energy, guys.
100%.
So how's that woo-woo? Everything's
100%.
energy.
100%. I couldn't agree more.
Those are books that just came. Like I said, I wanted to be inspired today and see what I wanted to share, and those are the books that I wanted to share. So, and her book's called The Prosperity Approach.
Okay. Awesome. No, I love that a lot. And I think you also mentioned earlier on that you plan on heading the public speaking. You're currently public speaking, obviously, but you're planning to. Actually, the next guest I have, you probably know him, Dan Clark.
Oh, yeah, I know Dan.
Yeah.
I actually more recently met him, too, in person and heard him talk, So he's
yeah,
awesome.
Yeah. So
Yes.
so I have heavy hitters. So I have Elisha Harris. I have Dan
Let's
Clark. You know what I'm saying? You know,
Shooting your shot. Look at him.
Which goes to my next question, actually. So we spoke about networking, right?
Yes.
And the importance of networking. That your network is your net worth. But at the same time, I feel like I've learned there's also those many non-transactional like relationships that you create that you can learn from other people as well. But however, I'm not contradicting whatsoever. I just feel people don't understand the importance of networking, like how important it actually is, especially in today's world. I've seen you shoot your shot with Thurl Bailey, like a Utah Jazz legend as well. I want to know your experience and just how important networking actually is today, in your opinion.
I think it's huge. Like the last few months, I've just felt inspired. Like, go to a bunch of events, and not with the intention to like sell people on anything or do anything. It's like, go meet people. And it's been cool because I love high vibe people that are also big dreamers and trying to go somewhere. And I recently met some amazing, amazing people, and I'm like, that's why it's huge. And those people oftentimes introduce me to something else or some resource I need, and I'm like, this is magical because I've learned, like, when we try to do it all on our own, like, that becomes heavy and it's not fun and you just come into these roadblocks. But when you network, truly network, like you're connecting, you're not just going with the intention of, I have like some lingering thing behind because I really want you part of this program or sell you on this or XYZ, because you see a lot of people hate networking because of that I've noticed. But if you show up because you truly want to connect with amazing people, that's where the magic happens. And it's so fun for me. So I love networking. Everyone's like, you're the network queen. I'm like, because I literally just love people. I don't look at them as obstacles. I look at them as people. That's powerful. So it's fun.
I love that. And how would you encourage those that are in their comfort zone, a little introverted, super shy? I mean, the fact that you've been there before, how would you help them get through that very first step of actually trying to network and getting to open their networks too?
I would say try to notice what's going on, what's getting in the way from you wanting, or why can't you show up somewhere? Like what's really, really holding you back? You can find your own answers, I believe. Otherwise, go find somebody you know that can help you get there. Go find somebody, if you truly want something, go find somebody that is there so you can ask them questions. If it's a friend or you have to hire somebody, because that's what will help you get there. Obviously, I had coaches, but to make these even bigger, massive leaps, I've had to hire people because I felt inspired to based on what I wanted. And I guess my tip is you're always going to feel unprepared potentially and fearful, and you have these things, but you got to do it anyway. You got to be willing to do something and have it be ugly at first, no matter what it looks like. And you'll be surprised that things still work out. and then you gain confidence, and then you're like, oh, that wasn't even that bad. So it's more of like literally just shoot, whether you make it or miss in life, and you learn from it. Because for me, I just thought about that the other day on the doors. I'm like, cool, I didn't get an appointment, but I can still, after that, look at what could I have done better? Oh, cool. And now I just gained more confidence, and I learned something, and now I can go shoot again, and whatever it is.
Powerful. Love that. Now, as we're about to transition and go more towards sales, I do agree with everything you said. I think networking is very, very important. One of the things I learned as well, especially with the entrepreneurs I've interviewed, including yourself, many people actually were introverted before they actually went through that specific period where they're like, I can talk to people. I can sell pest control.
Yes.
Let's go to the next door. It just takes that one step that you take, and you're like, hang on. The confidence is there. The mentality is there. You're like, I can actually do this thing, which transitions perfectly, segues towards sales. I'm excited for this part.
Sales. Let's go.
So like I said, I did sales. I sold pest control 2019, 2020, 2021. And then I was like, you know what? Let me just finish school. Let's come where I came to America for, which was to go straight to Manhattan and just live like the New York dream, pay high taxes, work my butt off, and maybe, I don't know, just build my way up as well. And then my roommates came through. Like, I'm about to get married. They're like, hey, listen, dude, wanna come try solar? Brother, I'm done with that, That's what I told him. And before you know it, it's like, listen, we made this amount in 4 months. You made what amount in 4 months? Show me the pay stubs. That just changed everything completely. So we switched things completely, went to California, did sales. And I tell you, as you mentioned, you encourage everyone to do door-to-door at least once within like their lifetime. It's the most important thing I've ever done for myself, because not only have I gained more confidence, I've broken like the barriers I've had, the limitations I've had in my head. I've seen work ethic. I've seen my low lows and my high highs. You know what I'm saying? And I often say that my kids will have to do 1 year of door-to-door, then agency begins after then. Like, you don't have a choice. You know what I'm saying?
That.
Everything
Yes.
begins, because I think it's so important.
I might do that too.
So, which I want to talk about, the reason I want to talk about this topic, you've been a professional athlete and you've been in the door-to-door space. You've seen both sides, both highs and lows. I want to try and figure out what is the difference between both. Being in door-to-door, just that crazy sales bro environment, the knocking the doors, the relentless, the hours, just everything hitting against you, everything going for you, just the roller coaster, and like the consistency, the mentality. I'm only speaking from door-to-door perspective, but you've seen that side also in the basketball and the professional athlete. Can you just give the difference between the two?
The difference. I'm trying to think in what way, but what comes to mind is kind of what I mentioned earlier. I think sports, well, here we go. I think why athletes are so good in the door-to-door space is because they've already had a lot more challenges, right, as an athlete, because like the games don't always go in your favor, just like in sales. So I think it's really good preparation for door-to-door. But like I mentioned, door-to-door in sales is just like next level. And so it's good to have that basis. So it's hard to say, nothing's coming to mind like the difference, because I love that they both complement each other, because they are both a roller coaster. Like, crap, I'm not shooting well today. But it's the mentality of like, Okay, what can I do to help my team? How can I show up in a different way even if I'm not shooting good? How can I help them? How can I go rebound now? Can I do this, this, and this, and think outside the box and not just of myself, or make the situation better, right? And then in door to door, it's like, crap, I didn't get a sell. But you have to trust the process. In the meantime, what's happening? I'm getting refined on the doors. I am shooting my shot. I'm getting better, my mindset, and you might not think it in the moment, but doing that day in and day out, like, you're a completely different person by the end of the summer sometimes if you really bought into it, right? And you learn how to ride that wave, because it's just like missing your shot or not having a great game or you failed. And they're both about getting through the failure, in my opinion, and how you act. How do you show up when you do fail? And what is your attitude going to be? What are you going to do? Are you just going to fail and stop and quit? Or are you going to keep going and have faith that there are going to be sales, there are going to be made shots, and you can keep going and you can become the best you? Because that's really the magic, right? Who are we becoming in the process as an athlete? Who are we becoming in the process of door to door? That's the magic. Because if we're only just focused on the championship and we can't be present here, or we're just focused on the money. Like, I went to an event with a bunch of like young 20-year-olds that made all this money. They're like 23. They're like, yeah, I made like 300K and I wasn't happy. And then I went bodybuilding and I wasn't happy. And I did this and I still wasn't happy. It's because they were missing the mark. They did all these things and they hit that destination, but they missed the journey and they missed who they were becoming. And that made me realize, I'm like, holy cow, they just got like everything they wanted that a lot of people think that they want. Mm-hmm. But if you can't learn to be happy with right now where you're at internally, you're not going to be happy over here. If you're driving a Ford Fusion, you're like, my life sucks until I own a Tesla. You're not going to be happy when you own a Tesla. You might get excited for a minute, but it's like, who cares? It's like, if you can enjoy that a lot more if you first enjoy what's going on inside, because that's a true reflection of what's going on outside.
Speaking of Tesla, we just had a bad experience. We're trying to find a freaking supercharge over here while coming here. So don't talk about my Tesla, because my Tesla's... I love it, but it's annoying me right now, my Tesla. But you know what?
They do tend to do that. Sorry, I went on a little tangent there, but I can get...
They're good, but not so good for long distance. I think my range is like 250 right now. So the reason why I got it was super like convenient for solar, because whenever I travel, we stay in a complex where we just charge for free.
Yeah.
Go, come back, no gas for like 2 straight years.
Yeah, that's
when you just travel. So it has its perks.
Oh, can I ask you the question then? What sports did you do?
I was a track athlete. So I did 100 meter, I did 200 meter, and I was also soccer and rugby in South Africa.
Okay, so what would your difference be between the sports? Since you asked me that question, what would your difference be between the sports?
The first thing that came in mind was the importance of teamwork in both, even though they may be different. Oh, so everyone has to. So specifically in sports, is playing your role more than anything. Because I feel like in soccer and in rugby,
track though.
So I'm going straight into soccer and rugby. So I'll go back to track, but in soccer and rugby, yes. Like playing as a right winger, you have to know your specific role that you have to fulfill your purpose in the team. Yes. Make sure that you can actually contribute towards winning as well. And depending on whatever system we're playing, whether we're playing counter-attack because we won't keep much of the ball, or whether we're playing possession football, we're keeping much of the ball. So it depends on that. And then one thing I realized in door-to-door, as much as there's teamwork,
you can't rely on anybody.
You're on your own sometimes.
Yep.
And it's
Most
just
of the
you
time.
and the door. And more thing I learned about door-to-door is discipline more than anything. Yes. So as you spoke about, I interviewed Sam Taggart, the DDD Con.
Yes.
So I interviewed him like 3 weeks ago right here. And as we're talking about this, he spoke about something you also mentioned earlier on about just getting out the car. Deciding those small specific things, building the habits towards that. And so door-to-door has shown me so much discipline compared to like, sometimes you can get like a teammate that can help you win the game in a soccer and so forth, even though you can play your role. But at door-to-door,
you can't hide.
You can't hide.
You cannot hide.
I'm giving an essay. It's just like, you can't hide. I'm like, there are the 3 words. You can't hide. Thank you so much, Elisha.
Let's simplify it, kids, a little bit, okay?
She's like, Katie's giving me the Old Testament, the New Testament. Let's just simplify it in 3 words. You can't hide.
That's why it's beautiful. No hiding.
That's perfect.
No, I love that. That makes sense now, because I was thinking I've done track too. I threw the javelin. I took state a few times in Utah.
That's
chucking
fun.
that thing. So I love. But when if you're looking at a team sport in that, yes, 100%, you just can't hide. And it's just you. And it's like, am I going to show up or am I going to quit? Am I going to get back at the door? And you have to battle all these thoughts that are attacking you constantly.
All the time. Like I had 5 no's in
Yeah.
a row. And which I want to lead to the next question. So, being a woman in today's world. The reason I want to talk about this thing, we were talking about when I did sales in New Jersey. It's funny. Sometimes people often ask me, you're knocking doors and you're like in a no soliciting area. They ask you questions. Are you getting stopped by the cops? So naturally, you think as a black person, am I going to play the victim card, or am I actually going to do the work as well? And Zach can attest. Within the 5 months we were there, how many times were the cops called on me?
You.
Yeah.
Multiple.
Me?
No, me.
Oh.
You didn't have any.
How many, like in a number for me?
One maybe.
Right? It was like one a group setting. And so like the reason I want to talk about like victimhood, sometimes people often play the victim card, like, listen, I can't do this because of my circumstance. I can't do this because I'm that. Like, how important is it to just rub off the victimhood in whatever you do?
That's literally the key to get what you want, because the victimhood isn't going to do anything for you, because you're going to keep showing up a victim and nobody's going to care. Because first of all, it's very low vibing and nobody wants to be around a low vibe. And so it's funny that we're talking about this, because one, I did mention I had a coach that kind of went into that. So I feel like people need to be confronted about like, what is victimhood and why are we going there? Like who cares if you keep sitting there? Like, let's move through it somehow. Like, you need to sit there and wonder why you're sitting in that, because you're not going to go anywhere. And it's frustrating because some people be like, yeah, those victims, and then they're still in their victimhood. And sometimes we'll jump in it, but when you can notice it a lot quicker, be like, you're right. Let me let this go and let me be present and be aware. It's all about awareness. And I think a lot of people just aren't aware. So how do you get aware, right? And it first comes with people that want to change. Well, how do I change? And then they're opening the door for, oh, I'm playing a victim. Oh, I'm doing these things. So I've been part of some events where they help you find that awareness. And so it's so fun to see people go through. They're like, oh, shoot, you're right. Because awareness is next level for anybody.
I love that. Because it's so hard sometimes when you just see people go on this rampage, like, I can't do this because my circumstances. I can't do this because the way I grew up. I can't do this because I'm black. I can't do this because I'm like, listen, the minute you start thinking something, it will happen. I promise you. Those that experience like the worst form of like, I don't like using the term oppression, but like cards stacked against them are those that constantly play the card like, listen, I can't do this. Well, then you can't.
And then they just expect handouts all the time. Like, it's like, no, this person's supposed to help, or this person's supposed to. I'm like, I could have, when people know my background, they're like, Elisha, you could have easily been on drugs or this and that. And so early on, I can see why I started my victimhood. But once I had a desire to not want to be in that, once I was aware of it, like, I'm getting out of that so fast, because I don't want to be that person, and that doesn't do anything for anybody. So I'm just grateful that I didn't stay in that too long. And I was like, so I guess it also starts with like a desire as well. Like, I wanted more than just whatever that energy was.
You changed my perspective on one thing. I never thought about it that way. You spoke about awareness, because sometimes you pick up that awareness, but sometimes you don't even realize that you're in it. So I never thought about it. So I appreciate you mentioning it, because as much as like sometimes I may feel like I'm not a victim, but I may find myself in a circumstance, I'm like, hang on, what am I complaining about? Like, just change it. And so I feel like self-awareness is probably the most important trait people can actually possess in today's world, because if you can...
Especially if you want to transform.
Exactly.
You have to have awareness. So, and that's why people hire coaches and mentors, because we have gaps and we can't always see them, but they can help you see that.
I often love those questions that are never like written down and just come up. So I'm glad we talk about victimhood a lot, which goes back to the next question of what is sales? How has sales transformed you as a person? Do you still like knock doors right now? You said you were knocking.
I went last night.
Yeah. Was it for solar?
It was actually.
How's solar
It's
in
interesting
Utah
because
compared to
most
Texas?
people, run from solar, and I had this like vibe the last 3 years. Like, I never want to knock on my own state, especially Utah, because it's everybody's like, Utah sucks, because obviously they compare it to the other markets where higher margin, this and that.
And it's the Mecca, so people think like door-to-door started here, but in Brigham Young's time,
Yeah, it's the Mecca. So people are gonna see me, and I'm gonna be exposed or whatever. So I had to break.
cares?
I had to break through that mindset a couple years ago. But I'm like, why not? I'm a lot older than people think, and I love the comfort of my own bed.
22, right?
I don't. Yeah, 22 exactly. God's still giving me a chance to get married. And so, where was I going with that? Thanks, Matt. No, say Utah Solar. It's a lot better than people would think. And people really, maybe the margins aren't as huge, but if you're working with the right installer that does a good job and they have a decent red line and it's not these massive ones that are making their red line so high so they can have the apps and this and that don't really matter. I'm like, I just want to make sure I work for a company where I can help the homeowner and I can make some money and I can trust that they're taken care of, because I've worked for multiple companies where I didn't always love maybe how they were being treated or the pressure to, you have to close them, like you suck if you don't. I'm like, I care about people. Again, let me step back. I care about people. So I've been very, very selective with, if I'm going to work in Utah, this opportunity that came up, if I'm going to do it, I have to feel good about it, that this is good for them. Like, I would sell this to my family members. If you can't sell it to your family members or in your own state, then you're a shady ass person. Sorry. That's how I feel. Because, well, why are you doing that to somebody else's family if you can't do it to your own? And there's a lot of that. Not everybody, but there's a lot of that. And to me, being aligned with my authenticity and integrity, I want to help people and I want to show up more like a real estate agent. So I'm part of this little brokerage. So we deal with some of the best little installers in Utah that really have been around and they have great reviews. And it's just like nice. It's like, I can now help you and I don't feel trashy and I'm not going to just leave you hanging at tax time, because guess what? We have a CPA for you and everything, when all the other ones seem to run after something goes wrong. So anyway, so Utah isn't even that bad. But what was the main question we even did here? I know we were doing Utah Solar, but you had a specific question.
How has sales
How
transferred?
has sales, yes. So sales, again, I think that was just my next level after coaching and things. I knew that I wanted to grow. So between actually my first little door-to-door experiment in Vegas, Vivint just went haywire. I was helping open a new market. I've never done door-to-door, but then that went south. So I came back to Utah. I didn't do door-to-door, and I actually stepped into Amazon high volume hiring, such a random job. I went over there like, you're good at public speaking, right? And I'm still kind of shy. I was like, yeah, I coach college. And I just act like I knew what I was doing. I was like, yeah.
Fake it till you make
Yeah,
it, baby.
I was like, let's go. And so they hire me and we have to do these big presentations with big groups. And like, that was great for me because it got me some practice. I'm like, oh, once I have that baseline stuff down, I can throw in my personality, have fun. And people are like, you don't get paid enough for this. I'm like, you're right. Anyway, so I was doing that, and then I got hired at Delta Airlines with a side gig that's amazing, and then I was doing some stuff for Utah Jazz Camps and Clinics, so I was trying to juggle that. Nobody saw me for a year, and then I finally quit that job. I'm like, this doesn't feel right. It was right before COVID, and then somebody got me in door-to-door space, and she was working at Delta, and I'm like, let's do it. Shoot your shot. And so once I finally did door-to-door, I realized this is my world, because sales, again, that's such a big way to grow. Like, you have to work on your personal development to succeed in sales. And so the belief and skill set that I got through that was so big. That's why I want to promote that for anybody. At some point, I want to bring out something called like what's next for specifically female athletes leaving the college sports, because there's so much need. There's a lot of identity crisis when athletes leave sports. They're like, and then we just become Uncle Rico's like, oh, the glory days. But like, what if we can have the glory days all the days and step into that athlete mentality, love what we're doing, it's still competitive, and we can help people and keep refining ourselves till the day we die. Like, that's magic right there. That's the stuff. So I think, again, even if you're not going to keep doing sales, if you can do a summer or something and be part of it, it's also going to help you find your purpose. I feel that.
I love it. Love it so much. Now, the last and final question. We ask every single guest this specific question.
Oh,
and
great.
all
Here
the
we go.
answers are so different. And I love it so much because there's no like right. I mean, there's no wrong answer. Sorry, I was like, there's no right answer.
No right or wrong. There's no right answer.
There is no wrong answer. So the question, because the podcast is called The Code to Winning, as you see at the background over there, and the motto being insights you need today to seize the world tomorrow. What is your personal definition of winning? What is winning to you?
Winning and success, or just winning?
Just winning.
Just winning. I think winning, I'm just going to say this, how it comes to me is being able to feel the freedom to show up as you are and live in purpose and have fun doing it. Because the more I do that, there is so much power in that. And I know that I'm guided on the next steps of why I'm here on this earth and how I can help other people around me and share my gifts to the world. So when I tap into that and I'm aligned, that is winning. Because then now if I win and I rise, people around me are also going to rise. And then we all win for the people that choose in to win. It's not the whole everybody wins, even the ones that didn't play hard or didn't want to blah, 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 right? I don't like that mentality. But I think that you can capitalize on everybody winning around you that wants to choose into the next levels. And that's why you see people that are successful. It's a different type of vibe, and those are the people that are around each other. So if you choose in, that's the magic. Shoot your shot. Woo!
That's what we call a mic drop.
Woo! Let's go!
Awesome. All right, Elisha, if you can share to the audience where they could get a hold of you, if you could talk a bit about your brand as well, you can show us some of your swag.
Oh, yeah.
Look into the thing and just let us know where they could get a hold of you, social media, how to contact you, how to join your team, how to learn from you, and all that kind of stuff. Just the floor is yours, madam.
Sweet. Yeah. So you can find me mostly on Instagram at Elisha A. Harris. I'm also on TikTok. I'm getting that going more on Facebook. And I have my email on my Instagram as well, where you can reach out to me if you have questions or you want to work with me or XYZ, you want to do a collab. And here's my merch. I came out with my first little line of merch, and I want to talk about why it looks like this. So first of all, I chose this design because it is an arrow, and I'm all about commitment to growth, right? Because that's also winning. But it's also my initials, and I didn't want it to just be my name, but it is my initials. It's an E and it's an H, Elisha Harris. And I'm a believer, if you have a vision, there's always going to be a route to get there. You just have to let go of which one it's going to be and just try them and trial and error. So it just implements everything I'm kind of about. And then some of them either have shoot your shot or run the route. And I'm going to have more stuff coming out too, as I also might be looking for another merch person. But so yeah, I have my merch on my Instagram and my TikTok, and you can kind of check it out there. But that's where you can find me. Go ahead and email me or follow me, and let's talk. Let's collab. So
Boom.
yes.
Awesome.
Woo!
The code to winning, insights you need today to seize the world
Woo!
tomorrow.
I started learning how to cut hair. I started mastering the skill. You know, they say you don't master a skill until about 10,000 hours. And so, you know, I really wanted to get 10,000 hours, not knowing that's going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So as I started cutting, I started realizing like, hey, Instagram's a valuable tool. It's a very valuable tool, and I need to utilize it. It's free. It's time. And so I got a credit card and I started swiping on it, and I opened up my first barbershop 3-chair shop, appointment only. And it was me, my friend Ethan, and another business owner at the time.
And that was in Utah, right?
That was in Utah, yeah.
It's not necessarily how much you know, but it's definitely who you know as
100%.
well. And so not only is your network your net worth, but you're literally one handshake away from a completely different lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things I've realized. I think it's more like working smart than it is actually working hard. Of course, working hard is there, but like doing all these different stuff that people would not be doing, getting out your comfort zone, which in your case seems actually more comfort.
Yeah, I like it. I always like to say, you know, get used to getting comfortable in your uncomfortable situation. Get comfortable with just being uncomfortable. Have those tough talks.